You were taught to seek comfort, to run from pain, to avoid anything that makes you uncomfortable, as if discomfort were a signal that something is wrong. And that is precisely why you're stuck, why every goal feels distant, why discipline slips through your fingers like sand. Because your brain has been programmed to protect you from pain, but in doing so, it has imprisoned you in a cage of mediocrity. The truth they never told you is this: your brain is not designed to make you successful. It's designed to keep you safe, and safe means comfortable, predictable, unchanging. Safe means you never grow. Safe means you stay exactly where you are, watching others ascend while you remain paralyzed by the invisible chains of your own programming. But here's what you need to understand: what separates those who build empires from those who merely dream about them. They learn to weaponize pain. They learn to make discomfort their fuel, their compass, their greatest ally. They stopped running from the fire and started walking straight into it, because they understood something fundamental that most people will never grasp. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is your teacher. Pain is the signal that you're breaking through, that you're transcending the old version of yourself, that you're becoming something more. And if you can master this, if you can learn to embrace the unbearable, you become unstoppable. This is not about motivation. Motivation is fleeting, a spark that dies the moment things get hard. This is about rewiring your brain at the neurological level, about hacking the very system that keeps you trapped. This is about understanding how your mind works, and then using that knowledge to force it to do what it was designed to avoid. Because once you understand the mechanics of resistance, once you see the invisible patterns that control your behavior, you can break them. You can reprogram yourself. You can become the architect of your own transformation. Your brain operates on a simple principle: avoid pain, seek pleasure. This is the survival mechanism that kept your ancestors alive, that made them run from predators and seek shelter. But in the modern world, this mechanism has become your prison. Because now the things that cause you pain are not threats to your survival. They're the very things that will set you free. Discipline, confrontation, hard work, solitude, change. Your brain can't tell the difference between a real threat and a perceived one. So when you try to do something difficult, something that requires effort, your brain screams at you to stop. It floods your system with discomfort, with anxiety, with every excuse imaginable. Not because the task is dangerous, but because it's unfamiliar. Because it requires you to leave the comfort zone where your brain feels safe. And most people obey that voice. They listen to the discomfort and retreat. They tell themselves they'll do it tomorrow, they'll start next week, they'll wait until they feel ready. But ready never comes, because that voice, that resistance, it will always be there. It's not going away. It's a feature of your operating system. The only way to overcome it is to stop listening, to stop negotiating, to stop waiting for permission from your own mind. You have to understand that your brain is not you. Your brain is a tool, a powerful one, but a tool nonetheless. And like any tool, it can be trained, reprogrammed, mastered. Let's go deeper. Let's talk about what happens when you force yourself to do something difficult. In that moment of resistance, in that split second where every fiber of your being wants to quit, something profound is happening. Your brain is releasing stress hormones, trying to push you back to safety. But if you push through, if you override that signal and do the thing anyway, your brain begins to adapt. It starts to realize that this new behavior is not a threat. It begins to build new neural pathways, new connections that make the difficult thing easier the next time. This is neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself based on your actions. And here's the key: the only way to trigger this process is through discomfort, through pain, through doing the thing your brain tells you not to do. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you're strengthening those new pathways. Every time you embrace the pain instead of running from it, you're teaching your brain that this is the new normal. And slowly, imperceptibly at first, the resistance weakens. The voice gets quieter. The discomfort becomes manageable. Not because the task got easier, but because you got stronger. Because your brain rewired itself to accommodate your new identity. This is how transformation happens. Not through inspiration, not through motivation, but through repeated exposure to discomfort. Through the accumulation of small, painful victories that compound over time. But here's where most people fail. They think willpower is enough. They think they can just grit their teeth and push through. And for a day, maybe a week, that works. But willpower is finite. It's a muscle that gets exhausted. And when it's gone, you're back to square one, back to the old patterns, back to the comfort zone. The secret is not to rely on willpower. The secret is to change your relationship with pain, to stop seeing it as something to be endured and start seeing it as something to be embraced, to shift from "I have to do this" to "I get to do this." Because the moment you stop resisting the discomfort, the moment you accept it, even welcome it, the power dynamic shifts. You're no longer at war with yourself. You're aligned. Your conscious mind and your primitive brain are working together, moving in the same direction. This is the state that separates the exceptional from the ordinary. Most people spend their entire lives at war with themselves, trying to force their brain to cooperate, exhausting themselves in the process. But the masters, the ones who achieve things that seem impossible, they've made peace with discomfort. They've learned to see pain not as a barrier, but as a signal that they're on the right path. Because if it doesn't hurt, if it doesn't challenge you, it's not changing you. And if it's not changing you, it's not worth doing. Let me give you a framework, a way to start rewiring your brain today. First, identify the thing you've been avoiding, the task, the conversation, the habit that you know you need to do but have been putting off. Write it down, look at it, feel the resistance. That feeling, that discomfort, that's your target. That's where the growth is. Now commit to doing it for just 5 minutes. Not an hour, not a day. 5 minutes. Because your brain can handle 5 minutes of discomfort. It's not a threat to your survival. But here's the trick. Once you start, once you break through that initial resistance, momentum takes over. The hardest part is always the beginning, the moment where your brain is screaming at you to stop. But if you can push past that, if you can just start, the rest becomes easier. Second, reframe the pain. Stop seeing it as something negative. Start seeing it as feedback, as evidence that you're doing something important. When you feel the discomfort, don't run from it. Lean into it. Say to yourself, this is growth. This is me becoming stronger. This is me rewiring my brain. Change the narrative, because the story you tell yourself in that moment determines whether you push through or give up. And the story most people tell themselves is, this is too hard. I can't do this. I'm not strong enough. But that story is a lie. A lie your brain tells you to keep you safe. Replace it with the truth. I am capable. I am strong. I am becoming more. Third, make it inevitable. Remove the decision from the equation. Because every time you have to decide whether or not to do the difficult thing, you're giving your brain an opportunity to talk you out of it. So eliminate that opportunity. Set up systems, structures, environments that force you to act. If you want to work out, lay out your gym clothes the night before. If you want to write, disconnect the internet. If you want to wake up early, put your alarm across the room. Make the path of least resistance the path you want to take, because your brain will always choose the easiest option. So make the easiest option the right option. Fourth, track your progress. Every time you do the difficult thing, mark it down. Keep a record, because what gets measured gets managed, and what gets managed gets improved. But more than that, seeing your progress, seeing the accumulation of those small victories, it rewires your brain. It creates a positive feedback loop. It shows you that you're capable, that you're changing, that the pain is worth it. And that evidence, that tangible proof, it's more powerful than any motivational speech. It's the difference between believing you can change and knowing you can. Fifth, embrace the plateau. Because here's what no one tells you: progress is not linear. There will be days, weeks, even months where it feels like nothing is changing, where the discomfort is still there, where the task is still hard, where you don't see results. This is the plateau, the place where most people quit, because they expect transformation to be dramatic, immediate, visible. But real change happens slowly, invisibly, beneath the surface. Your brain is rewiring itself, but you can't see it. The neural pathways are forming, but you can't feel them. Trust the process. Trust that every rep, every moment of discomfort is building something. And one day, seemingly out of nowhere, you'll break through. You'll look back and realize you're not the same person you were. Not because of one heroic moment, but because of 1,000 small moments where you chose pain over comfort. Now let's talk about the enemy, because this journey is not just about building new habits, it's about destroying old ones. Your brain is wired for efficiency. It creates shortcuts, patterns, routines that save energy. And most of those patterns, those habits you've built over years, they're keeping you trapped. They're the reason you reach for your phone instead of your work. They're the reason you stay in bed instead of going to the gym. They're the reason you avoid difficult conversations, difficult tasks, difficult emotions. These patterns are deeply ingrained. They're automatic, and breaking them is painful. More painful than building new ones, because your brain resists change. It fights to maintain the status quo, and when you try to disrupt it, it will unleash every weapon in its arsenal: doubt, fear, anxiety, rationalization, procrastination. But here's the truth: you can win this war. Not through force, not through willpower, but through understanding. When you feel the resistance, when your brain is screaming at you to stop, recognize it for what it is. It's not truth, it's not intuition, it's not a signal that you should quit. It's just your brain doing what it was designed to do, protecting you from perceived danger. And in that recognition, you find power. Because once you see the pattern, once you understand the mechanism, you can override it. You can say, "I see you, brain. I know what you're doing, but I'm doing this anyway." This is the ultimate form of self-mastery. Not controlling your emotions, not suppressing your thoughts, but recognizing them for what they are and choosing your actions anyway. This is what separates the strong from the weak, the builders from the dreamers, the masters from the slaves. The weak are controlled by their impulses. The strong control their impulses. The weak listen to the voice of resistance. The strong acknowledge it and move forward anyway. The weak wait for the right moment. The strong create the moment. And here's what happens when you live this way. When you make embracing discomfort your default mode, you become dangerous, not in a violent way, but in a way that makes you unpredictable, unstoppable, immune to the forces that control everyone else. Because most people are slaves to their comfort. They will do anything to avoid pain, and that makes them predictable, that makes them controllable. But you've trained yourself to walk into the fire. You've rewired your brain to see pain as power. And that makes you free. Free from the need for approval. Because you're willing to do what's right even when it's uncomfortable. Free from the fear of failure. Because you've learned that failure is just feedback, just another form of discomfort to embrace. Free from the tyranny of your own mind. Because you've learned to master it. And in that freedom, you find power, real power. The power to create the life you want, to become the person you were meant to be, to do the things that everyone else says are impossible. This is not a philosophy. This is not a theory. This is a practice, a daily, relentless, unforgiving practice. Every day you will face a choice, comfort or growth, safety or transformation, the old you or the new you. And every day you must choose the difficult path, not because it feels good, not because it's easy, but because it's the only path that leads somewhere worth going. Because the comfortable path, the easy path, it leads nowhere. It leads to stagnation, to regret, to a life half-lived. And you didn't come this far to settle for that. So here's your mission if you choose to accept it. Starting today, identify one thing you've been avoiding, one task, one habit, one conversation that your brain has been protecting you from, and do it. Not tomorrow. Not when you're ready. Today. Now. Push through the resistance. Embrace the discomfort. Feel the pain and do it anyway. Because in that moment, in that single act of defiance against your own programming, you will begin to change. You will plant the seed of a new identity. And if you water that seed every day with repeated exposure to discomfort, it will grow. It will become a tree. It will become a forest, and one day you will look back at the person you used to be, the person who was controlled by fear and comfort, and you won't recognize them, because you will have become something else, something stronger, something unstoppable. But understand this, no one is coming to save you. No one is going to force you to change. No one is going to rewire your brain for you. This is your responsibility, your burden, your privilege, because the ability to change, to grow, to transcend your programming, that's the most powerful gift you have. That's what makes you human. That's what separates you from every other creature on this planet. You have the power to choose. You have the power to become. And if you waste that power, if you spend your life running from discomfort, seeking comfort, you will have wasted the only thing that truly matters, your potential. Machiavelli once wrote, "The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves." But I would add this, you must also be willing to walk through fire, because the greatest trap is not set by others, it's set by your own mind. And the only way to escape it is to stop running, to stop negotiating, to stop waiting for the pain to go away. It won't. It never does. But you can learn to carry it. You can learn to use it. You can learn to become the kind of person who doesn't need things to be easy, who doesn't need permission, who doesn't need comfort. And when you become that person, when you've rewired your brain to embrace the unbearable, something shifts. The world doesn't change. You change. And when you change, everything changes. Opportunities appear where there were none. Obstacles become stepping stones. Pain becomes power. And you become invincible, not because you don't feel pain, but because pain no longer controls you. Because you've learned the ultimate truth. Discomfort is not the price of growth. It's the evidence of it. So if you made it this far, if you've absorbed every word, every truth, every uncomfortable reality I've laid before you, you are not just a viewer, you are a seeker. Someone who refuses to settle, who refuses to accept the prison of comfort, who refuses to live a life dictated by fear. And for that you are rare. You are dangerous. You are on the path to mastery. Now I ask you to do something. Not for me, not for an algorithm, but for yourself. Comment below. Pain is my compass. Let that be your declaration, your commitment, your reminder that you're done running, that you're done waiting, that you're ready to walk into the fire. And if this message resonated with you, if you felt the weight of these words, subscribe to this channel. Because here, we don't deal in comfortable lies. We don't offer shortcuts or empty promises. We offer truth, raw, brutal, unfiltered truth, the kind that cuts, the kind that burns, the kind that transforms. Each video is not entertainment. It's a key. And if you're ready to unlock the version of yourself that you've been too afraid to become, you're in the right place. Now go. And remember, your discomfort is your compass, your pain is your power. And the only thing standing between you and the life you want is your willingness to embrace the unbearable. So embrace it every single day, until it's not unbearable anymore, until it's just who you are.